for all of us. It's about predicting where the consumer is going and getting half of it right.
One of the things we want to do is create ads that don't suck.
Embracing change creates great possibility.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today. Today on the show, I've got Jessica Young. She's the founder and CEO of Bubble Goods. With over 10 years in the food and wellness industry, Jessica saw a gap in the market. Food brands were innovating, but they didn't have the digital know-how or right platform to launch and scale. It was becoming harder and harder for these brands to get into Whole Foods, launch and scale with Amazon, and inefficient to drive customers into their own singular commerce channels. Jessica saw an opportunity to launch something similar to what Etsy has done in the handmade goods space, create and curate a marketplace for innovative, truly strict label independent food brands. Prior to launching Bubble Goods, Jessica worked as a chef in New York City in Michelin star restaurants before transitioning to the food startup scene, which eventually led her to becoming the first employee and head of product and operations for Daily Harvest. On the show today, we talk about Bubble Goods, what it is, who they serve. We talk about how they're giving small independent food and beverage brands the ability to market to a national market and putting them on the map. We talk about transparency and how that's important to not only to the company and how they certify or inspect products before putting them into their marketplace. We also talk about how marketers might need to be thinking about using platforms and marketplaces like Bubble Goods. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Jessica Young. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk about Bubble Goods and all the things that you're doing there. But before we get into that, I think you might be the first professionally trained chef on Marketing Today. I'd love to know, where'd you... I know, awesome, right?
We love setting firsts and records here. So
Exactly. So I'd love to know where your passion for cooking started.
yeah, I think I love food. I love the history of food. I don't think it was a very conscious decision to get into the food industry. It was much more of an evolution. So I honestly in college wanted to take a semester off and then some late night fun conversations with my long-term childhood friend, Erica, who was at NYU in the city. I was staying with her over a weekend. She's like, well, you love to cook and food. Like, I just go to culinary school or something. I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. I should go to culinary school, and looked into programs, actually attended culinary school. And then I kind of never looked back. So totally fell in love with food, the food industry, got involved in restaurants. And then that kind of evolved, and I was burnt out from the restaurant scene to what was happening in the online food space. So was really lucky to make some great moves early in my career to get in early with the online food space. And now here we are heading up Bubble Goods. So it's been an evolution.
Yeah. Well, I have to ask, do you have any favorite things that you're cooking these days?
Ooh, that I'm making these days or ordering. I mean, I'm honestly very influenced with what's happening on TikTok. So I recently, fufu is trending and having a moment on TikTok. So kind of West African cuisine, which is interesting. So over the weekend, I ordered some fufu and okra stew. And then I actually ordered the same African restaurant had some Kenyan roti and a mung bean type dal that originates in Kenya. So they have a pretty heavily influenced Indian presence there. It was a British colony at one time, so they kind of have that going on in Kenya. So great Indian food out of Kenya. So I don't know. I ordered that. What have I been making? I don't know. I've been honestly really busy lately and running around. So for how much cooking I've done in my lifetime, recently I'm not too proud of the cooking I've been doing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You had me at okra stew because I grew up in the South, and so I grew up eating fried okra all the time. So not everyone likes okra. So
yeah,
but I do.
Yeah, it depends. I think it's also how it's done. Stewed, it gets that sliminess to it versus fried. It's any fried vegetable. So I think it's also in the cooking method for sure too.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, you highlighted it before. You are the founder and CEO at Bubble Goods. When did you start the company?
We started unofficially right before the pandemic hit. So I had left Daily Harvest, the company I was at before starting Bubble, to pursue this as an opportunity of in a loose form. I was consulting for some other companies. And then more formally, like during the pandemic, we started serving brands that were really rushing to the mini platform we stood up to try to sell their products online. And that's when we got a really big boom on the supply side of the marketplace. And now we have over 1,000 food and beverage brands shipping across the country on the marketplace. But yeah, it really got moving during the pandemic. So, and now we're on the fun stuff. We're scaling orders, the consumer side, into brand accounts that we now have live with us. So
I love it. Well, maybe it's worth describing a little bit more about Bubble Goods, and what you guys do. It seems like a marketplace, but how do you think about what you're doing and who you're serving?
Yeah, we're a 100% dropship marketplace at this time. So we don't hold any inventory. Our bread and butter is curating a lot of the brands that come and want to list and sell with us. So we have a really strict vetting process. We get called the Etsy of health food all the time, but we don't accept any kind of cottage production. So you cannot actually produce in a home kitchen. You have to produce out of a food safe facility and kind of provide that paperwork. So And kind of from that point, you can make an account and start shipping your products. We don't have any minimum order quantities. So we're really, really emerging brand friendly. And we see a lot of brands and industry trends really before any other retailer, which is a pretty cool spot to be at in the food system. And yeah, brands can opt into, we have two different plans. We have our basic plan where we'll generate shipping labels and they can log into the dashboard and that's all taken care of for them. Or we have a Shopify Connect plan. Shopify connection, and we call that our Connect plan. And brands can link their Shopify store, we'll pull their inventory, product data, pricing, and then they can go get up and selling with us as a channel really overnight once their products are approved. So, we've done a lot of work on our platform to make it really easy for brands to make an account and get up and selling. And then what we spend, now 90% of our time on is not onboarding brands and that account side. It's a really fast process. We spend about 90% of our time figuring out how best to sell the products that are on the marketplace and serve customers that are looking for these products. So very customer centric as a marketplace.
Got it. And so, tell me maybe a little bit more about how you think about that 90% of the time that you're trying to, if you will, how to best sell those products. What are you doing in that?
Yeah. So most customers find the marketplace and then the products on the marketplace in two different areas. So we have a cohort of customers that are really interested in discovery. So what are the latest brands and products? And they just love the healthy food space and trying all the different things. So Erewhon out in LA and the West Coast is super trendy in this space. And so we kind of bring that Erewhon effect into an online marketplace. So people that don't have an Erewhon or live in LA but kind of want the latest and greatest brands, we have that all in one place. I think the comparison would be if you're in beauty, you love beauty products, you're going to kind of shop at the Sephora experience because Sephora has the coolest brands, the latest, all in one place. And that's sort of what we bring to the table for health and wellness products. And then we have another strong cohort of customers that are seeking out products within this space, given their lifestyle and diet constraints. So that might be autoimmune protocol, a vegan lifestyle, paleo or keto, and they want to eat a certain way. And we have products that are totally screened. So keto products that don't contain a lot of junk in them, all in one place. And we've kind of put our stamp of approval. So we have people that are pretty refined in looking for how best to benefit their lifestyle. And then these brands and products really fit into that. And they're a little bit more specific. So we really index towards those two communities pretty heavily and the experience behind that. So people that are discovery driven, how do we always get new products in front of them? And they have very diverse carts each time they shop with us, all the way to lifestyle or product specific customers and how best we personalize that experience. So we're always tailoring a lot of our efforts around those two communities and their experiences.
Gotcha. And it sounds like you work with whole different types of companies and independent brands. How do you think about like your role in helping them reach kind of a national market or even put them on the map, so to speak, in some cases as it relates to discovery and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, we take into account that we're, for a lot of these brands, their first retailer, and that at the same time, as like a powerful part of their strategy, we're immediately putting their product national, which is probably one of the most exciting parts about a brand joining our platform is that they get in front of a national audience right away. The click of a button, and they're getting a lot of insights and their product out there. So yeah, we take that role pretty seriously. We try to really work with brands to be their partner in those initiatives. You know, at the end of the day, their sales are our sales. So when a brand joins our platform, we have a whole resource guide that they can download right in the dashboard that has everything from legal partners, VCs that are kind of close to the platform that we're affiliated with. They need some like funding options. So we kind of have a roster, you know, marketing partners, like whatever they need to kind of help grow their brand. We try to be as supportive as we can without doing it for them other than kind of selling their product. So it's like, you know, we can't rebrand your product, but we can point you to some great branding agencies that, you know, we feel like you can in good hands. So
Gotcha. And you've mentioned like certifying products or kind of going through that, you know, approving product process. It sounds like from listening to that, and I think, you know, some of the information I was shared with before, that transparency is really kind of key to the products that you host on the site. And I would love to just hear you talk a little bit about the importance of transparency, I guess, in the business and in the products that you're selling.
yeah, it's part of our namesake actually, and why we call ourselves Bubble Goods was part of our mission to like bring transparency to the food system. We're really firm believers that the future of food is co-op of a lot of independent makers getting together and selling, not necessarily like one company taking over all categories. So we have a very direct system. We're putting customers right in touch with like brands and products that, you know, are based all over the country that, you know, normally the two would never cross paths. So, that's sort of, I guess, our
Key. Gotcha. And I mean, it sounds like you work across many different food product categories, if you will. So, and to your point earlier around like lifestyle or diet specific requirements, there's a lot of boxes to check, if you will. And just curious, like how that manifests, if you will.
In what way? How that manifests, like working in different categories.
Working with the brands that you're, you know, considering putting on the platform, you know, marketing, merchandising, et cetera. Like, are you working with them to identify maybe new areas that they could go into as well?
Not necessarily, I guess, kind of like trend and insights. We're not serving brands that level of insights, I would say. Like, you know, let's say you're a kale chip company. We're not really advising someone to say, hey, you should launch other chips, or hey, you should use your supply of kale to launch a kale pesto. So like a condiment out of a snack or chip category. We're not, you know, providing that. We definitely leave that to the brands. But what we are doing in terms of like merchandising is, you know, we're always optimizing our listings the way customers are shopping. So if someone's interested in kale chips and they're vegan, let's get that in front of them. Or they're pursuing a paleo diet, let's get that in front of those, you know, users and tailor that, especially for our logged in user experience. We're doing a lot more with that type of journey. Because again, like their sales are our sales. So if we have a lot of insights around customers, their shopping behavior, what they'll like, it'll improve the sales for the listings and brands that we house. So we're doing things like that. We're also upping cross-selling. So you have a chip, how do we get you partnered with a dip that someone might like, as an example? So, which is really important in grocery. And I think all of grocery is always looking to improve. You know, we're not limited to like aisles of a grocery store where chips and dips are in two different aisles on two sides of like the grocery store, for example. We can actually like get that, you know, in your basket as you're checking out for like an upsell, and you don't have to walk down a separate aisle. So based on kind of purchase history, purchase behavior, purchase kind of cohorts that we can make those combinations. So we're doing a lot more on those fronts to aid in better sales. So
that's perfect. Well, and I'm curious too how much that we talked about discovery as well a little bit ago, and how much does the marketing, if you will, who's making the food is a part of that education and marketing process? Is that something that you guys are supporting and thinking about?
Yeah, we love that as a brand. What's interesting is that customers don't always, it's not always super important. The product, what's in it, what lifestyle it fits in for a customer actually supersedes who's making the product. So it's interesting how we've tailored our marketing and surfacing that information. Some of our cohorts, I would say they're like a smaller subset, are very small business driven. So I think while customers enjoy that about the business, it's not necessarily what's leading them to purchase. It's really, really product driven more than anything. So it's interesting. But yeah, our social media, we're always doing features. Some of our advertising, we're always kind of promoting the different, people behind the brand and their products. That said, there's a good amount of brands on our platform that have a lot of brand cachet. One of those being Fly by Jing. She's really well known in the space. We sell a lot of her products. And also too, some of the brands that sell on the platform are recognized by other brands. So they're good for both the customer recognition side, but also brand recognition. If Fly by Jing is doing well here, I want to sell my condiment here too. So it's cool to see all the brands working together and kind of helping each other with sales too in that way.
I love that. And I really love that nugget that customers may not quite care. It makes me think of to your point, I'm looking for a product. I really want, the story is important and it adds to the context.
Yeah.
But it's not what I'm really trying to maximize at this moment in time, shopping on the site. So I think that reality dose is actually a pretty nice mix. And for marketers, they're listening to this conversation. How should they be thinking about utilizing Bubble as a channel or a partner potentially to leverage?
Yeah, we like to say we're low lift, high impact. So any marketer that is working with a food or beverage brand that needs an additional channel, but also sales. If you're looking to add to your sales mix, we are one of the fastest growing channels online, in general as retailers. So for these food and beverage brands, we're excited. We have a bunch of brands that are making accounts that now are being led by head of sales, head of marketing, because they're understanding the impact of our channel, which is pretty cool. So we have a good roster of different referral partners that are sending their own clients to us. And I think we're adding a lot of brand value. So brands that are listed and selling with us, we have that stamp of approval and it's reflecting really well on brands that can say, oh, we sell on Bubble if they're trying to get into a Whole Foods or an Erewhon. And they can also show proof of sales on Bubble Goods and that we've approved them. And we have, the strictest standards in the food industry. So yeah, we do well all around, I think. So we love marketers and their teams that send brands away. Or we've literally seen marketers create the account for their brand partners, and then they send them the login credentials. They're like, "Hey, I made an account. Go make this happen, but we need to be selling here." So usually we get a, "Hey, what's the password reset?" because our new marketing agency made an account, we can't get in, which is interesting. So yeah, we've seen it all. We've seen it all.
I love it. Well, anything else you want to share about the business and Bubble Goods? Otherwise, we'll switch gears, but let me give you a chance.
No, I think, we're launching more perishable products into this year. So about 90% of products are shelf stable, food and beverage. We have a small pet section that we're building out. So a little bit of pet food along with human food. We're not going outside of anything edible. And then we're getting into perishable food space. So anyone with great direct-to-consumer perishable in their portfolio, send them our way. We're actively recruiting in that category. So
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's a difficult one to get to master. I would imagine because of the perishable nature of it.
Oh yeah, I know probably way too much about shipping frozen and perishable food around the country. It is, which is why we've waited until some of these systems were a bit more stable, which we have in place. So
Awesome. I look forward to buying and seeing what comes available on the platform and on the marketplace.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
one of the things we love to get to do is to know you a little bit more behind the topics we cover and the business side of the equation. And curious if there's an experience of your past that defines and makes up who you are today.
Yeah, I think we kind of led with that. Probably, working in kitchens, I think I learned an extreme sense of urgency and timeliness and putting like the customer first and customer satisfaction. I don't know that the customer is always right, but the customer should always be satisfied for sure. So, always kind of leaving us some kind of customer satisfaction and word of mouth referral being so high in the restaurant space. So I've always taken those fundamentals from that the experiences working in hospitality into working in e-commerce. So,
well, and I guess if anyone watches reality shows or TV shows about kitchen life, it seems intense. And your notion about underscoring urgency and timeliness, it's one of the things that comes through. I don't know if your experiences echo that as well, but
oh yeah,
blinking on the show, like The Bear, maybe is the show I was thinking of.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny.
The intensity.
Yeah, super intense. And everyone keeps telling me to watch The Bear, and I'm like, I love reality shows, but any like chef reality show is a little like PTSD for me. I've seen clips of The Bear, and I'm like, whoa, been there, done that. Like, I don't know. It seems stressful. But yeah, it was funny. Some of my team members were trying to get me to do a TikTok at the office the other day because there's like this audio clip that's going around on TikTok, and it's like the bear screaming out like orders at the window because someone on his front of house staff, like it seems messed up the point of sale system. And he gets just like flooded with orders, and he's like rattling off the orders. And because it's so ingrained in me to like know orders, and you have to like call back orders when like your head chef, calls them out. They were like impressed that I could like recite the orders back. I'm like, oh yeah, when you're like under the gun, under pressure, you better, know how many, items are plating up and in what order. So, but yeah, the chef,
that is funny.
Totally.
Well, maybe stay away. We don't want you to have PTSD. So stay away.
Yeah.
Well, what advice would you give your younger self if you're starting this journey all over again?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Pick an easier path. Go to medical school. I don't know. Yeah. The journey I've taken has been like a very windy road. It's been awesome and very rewarding, but I don't know. Maybe pick a different, more simpler path. I don't know.
Well, I think I love that. I love that answer and insight, because a lot of people, I think, what's the word I'm looking for? Romanticize the life of an entrepreneur, and they forget that it's a lot of work, and it's hard. So anyway, I think I'm picking up on that from you.
Oh, totally, totally. Yeah, your personal life gets compromised. Your time is not your own. Your time is totally like you become a servant to like whatever you're working on, the team that you manage, your investors who call you at all hours of the day from all different countries and all different messaging apps, WhatsApp, text, email, like whatever. So it is a lot of pressure and a lot to like stand up to. So, it's definitely rewarding, but I've seen there's like I forget who published it, but a really well-known graph about like the day in the life of an entrepreneur. And it's just like this up and down graph of like high highs and low lows of wins. And it's like gradually going up and to the right, but along the way, it's just like extreme peaks and valleys. And that's, I would say, very true. Like one minute you're getting like Forbes is writing about you. The next minute, your email accounts are going crazy and no one's getting emails, or, somehow your system like paid out, your brands on your marketplace 3 times and you don't know why. You have to figure it out. So, it's interesting behind the scenes for sure.
A lot of fun complexity to manage and harness. Well, curious if there's like a topic you think either marketers need to be learning more about, or maybe it's something you're trying to learn more about yourself.
Yeah. The hot topic now, I think, is in marketing for consumer, like categories we're in, are some like new age, but also old school tactics. So predominantly, I would say TikTok and getting TikTok to work really well, because it is a bit of Wild West, like attribution and campaigns that work well, because it's such a new program for TikTok. So I know everyone in the game is trying to figure that out. Our ourselves included. So like we brought on a full-time marketing associate to really focus on TikTok and content creation. Her 18th video with us got like 800,000 views, which was awesome. And then it's like, okay, we'll put spend and like do more stuff behind that. So there's a lot of like testing and trying to get that down a little bit to more of a science, which like we're trying to figure out too. So anyone who has notes that is listening to this, send them our way. Find me on LinkedIn. So any good strategies. And then some old school that I think everyone is paying attention to is just like SEO, backlinks, like long tail and organic for SEO, but also like optimizing your ads through like data feeds, merchant center. So we index pretty heavily just because we have such a massive catalog and products that each drive to each other. So SEO and like all those listings and kind of TikTok are at the forefront, I think, for growth right now.
Got it. Awesome. Well, are there any trends or subcultures that maybe you follow or you think other people should take notice of?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the food and beverage space, there's a great account called Snackshot that I always take a peek at. There's a directory called CPGD that always has like great products and brands and a lot, what's going on in the food and beverage space. So those are some pretty cool, accounts and communities that I personally pay attention to. I see stuff and I'll put it in our like internal Slack channel at Bubble Goods. We have some fun work channels that we all contribute to. So we have one called Industry and Trend, and that's a frequent in that channel.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, that's a good tip. Last question for you. What do you think is the largest opportunity or threat facing marketers today?
Ooh. I think there was like a big conversation about AI and ChatGPT like replacing marketers, but I don't think that that's true on that front. I think there's more opportunity to like utilize those tools, but I think good marketers more than ever are covering more ground. So I think like if you're a marketer and you're not so great, you are probably more at risk than if you like have really honed your craft and you're utilizing kind of like more tools than ever, because like reporting's easier than ever, whether you're using like Trickle Whale or whatever kind of aggregate platform to like measure success. And so I think marketers can do a lot more with like smaller teams and be a lot more precise in their like exact vertical because they have such a like vast tool set. If you're like a subpar marketer, not really, I think that you should get more of an edge and like dig in and like utilize some of the tools at hand, right now.
Oh, makes sense. I guess listeners, you heard that first. This is coming from a CEO. You're not at risk of being replaced unless you're mediocre. So sharpen that toolkit. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for coming on the show, talking a little bit about Bubble Goods and what you're seeing in the space. Appreciate it. Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Today was created and produced by me with post-production support from Sam Robertson. If you're new to Marketing Today, please feel free to write us a review on iTunes or your favorite listening platform. Don't forget to subscribe on marketingtodaypodcast.com and tell your friends and colleagues about the show. I love hearing from listeners. You can contact me at marketingtodaypodcast.com. There you'll also find complete show notes and links to what was discussed in the episode today, and you can search our archives. I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.